We are not asking you to join us. We are asking you to join yourselves, to remember what you were before you became afraid, to remember that the galaxy belongs to all of us, not just the strong. On the planet below, the assembly hall was in complete chaos. Representatives were leaving, some heading for ships to return to their homeworlds. Others were demanding to speak with Jake's fleet. "Admiral Sullivan," Jake said on a private channel, "I need you to do something for me. Name it. Take a message. Back to Earth Command. Tell them what you've seen here. Tell them that the galaxy is about to change and humanity needs to be ready." "What about you?" Jake looked around his command center at the faces of his family, the people who had chosen to follow him and each other into the impossible. "We're going home." "Home?" "Jake, Earth is 3 weeks away." "I wasn't talking about Earth." Jake opened a channel to his entire fleet. "All ships, this is Morrison. Mission accomplished. Form up for hyperspace jump." "Where are we going, sir?" asked Captain Cole. "Kethra Prime. We've got 30,000 people waiting for us to come home." As the fleet prepared to leave, Jake received one more transmission. It was from the surface of the capital world, a group of young Zephyrians who had been watching the broadcast. "Commander Morrison," said their leader, a female who looked barely old enough to be a soldier. "My name is Zex Ara. We want to join." "You? Join us? We've heard about what you built on the prison world, about different species working together, about choosing your own family. That's what we want too." Jake looked at Crix, who nodded slowly. Even among the Zephyrians there were those ready for change. "You're welcome," Jake said. "But you should know, we don't promise it will be easy." "Nothing worth doing ever is," Zex Ara replied. The fleet jumped to hyperspace, leaving the Zephyrian home system in chaos. Behind them, the Empire was already beginning to crumble as world after world chose freedom over fear. 3 days later, Jake stood on the surface of Kethra Prime, watching ships land in the expanded spaceport. His fleet was returning, bringing new volunteers from across the galaxy. The prison world had become something no one had ever imagined, the capital of hope. Elena stood beside him, along with Dr. Park, Crix, Thys, and all the others who had shared the impossible journey from prisoners to family to galactic changers. "What happens now?" Elena asked. "Now we build something new," Jake said. "Not a human empire or an alien empire, but something that belongs to everyone. The Zephyrians won't give up easily." "I know, but they're not fighting the same enemy anymore. They're not fighting separate species or divided worlds. They're fighting an idea." "What idea?" Jake watched as humans and aliens worked together to unload supplies from the returning ships. Children from a dozen different species played together in the compound. Families that had been formed by choice rather than birth prepared meals together. "The idea that the galaxy belongs to all of us," he said. "That families can be chosen. That what we share is stronger than what divides us." A young human boy ran up to them, followed closely by an alien child with blue fur and 4 arms. They were laughing and speaking in a mix of languages that somehow made perfect sense to both of them. "Commander Jake," the human boy called out. "Mom says dinner is ready." Jake smiled and followed the children toward the main compound. Behind him, ships continued to land, bringing more families to the world that had once been a prison. 2 years ago, the Zephyrians had abandoned a human prisoner on a death world, thinking they were solving a problem. Instead, they had planted the seed of their own destruction and the birth of something beautiful, a galaxy where being different wasn't a weakness, but a strength. where families were defined not by biology, but by choice, where home wasn't a place you were born, but a place you built together. As Jake walked toward dinner with his chosen family, he thought about the message he would send to Admiral Sullivan tomorrow. It would be simple. Mission accomplished. The galaxy is free. Come and see what we've built. But tonight was for celebration. Tonight was for family. Tonight was for remembering that sometimes the most impossible dreams are the ones most worth fighting for. In the distance, more ships appeared in the sky, bringing more people who had heard about the place where prisoners became family and the abandoned became the architects of a new age. The war against the Zephyrian Empire was far from over, but the most important battle had already been won. The battle for the idea that everyone deserves a home, everyone deserves a family, everyone deserves hope, and sometimes all it takes is one person who refuses to give up to change everything. Over the next 3 days, the question was debated in every corner of the base. Humans argued with other humans. Alien species held their own discussions. Mixed groups worked through the tactical problems. In the end, the vote was closer than Jake expected, but clear enough. They would take their entire force to the Zephyrian home system and announce their existence to the galaxy. Preparations began immediately. Every ship was checked and repaired. Every weapon was tested. Every fighter practiced their role in the complex attack plan. Jake found himself working 18-hour days, coordinating with dozens of different groups, but he also made time for something important, a message. He sat in his private quarters, speaking into a recording device. On his desk was a picture of his original crew from the UES Horizon: Rick, Amy, Pete, and the others who had escaped in the pods 2 years ago. "This message is for Admiral Kate Sullivan and the United Earth Command," Jake said to the recorder. "My name is Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison. I was captured by Zephyrian forces 2 years ago and presumed dead. I want you to know that I'm alive, and I'm not alone. I'm speaking to you from the command center of the largest multi-species alliance in galactic history. Former prisoners from 47 different worlds have joined together to fight the Zephyrian Empire. In 72 hours, we will attack the Zephyrian home system, not to conquer it, but to prove that their empire can be challenged, to show every oppressed world that they are not alone. If you receive this message, it means we succeeded. It also means the real war is just beginning. The Zephyrians will respond with everything they have, but they will be fighting something they have never faced before, a galaxy that refuses to give up. I don't know if I'll survive the next few days, but I know that what we've built here will survive, because it's bigger than any one person or any one species. It's an idea. The idea that different people can work together, that families can be chosen, not just born, that even the most hopeless situation can be turned around if people refuse to quit. Tell my crew that I kept my promise. I made sure everyone got home safely, even if home turned out to be a place I never expected." Jake turned off the recorder and prepared the message for transmission. In 3 days, it would be broadcast on all frequencies throughout human space. But first, they had to survive the most audacious attack in galactic history. Jake walked through the base one more time, visiting every section. In the workshops, final preparations were being made to weapons and equipment. In the hangar bays, pilots were checking their ships. In the living areas, families were saying goodbye, because that's what they had become, Jake realized. Not just an army or a rebellion, but a family. Humans and aliens who had chosen each other. people who had decided that what they shared was more important than what made them different. Tomorrow, they would take that family to war against the most powerful empire in the galaxy. Win or lose, they would prove that some things are worth fighting for, and sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't a gun or a ship. Sometimes it's hope. The Zephyrian home system had never seen anything like it. Jake's fleet dropped out of hyperspace, in perfect formation. 230 ships of different sizes and designs, all working together like parts of a single machine. The signature masks made them invisible to sensors until they were already inside the system's defenses. "All ships, this is Morrison," Jake announced over the comm system. "Execute Phase 1. The first wave hit the orbital defense platforms before the Zephyrians even knew they were under attack. Fighters from a dozen different species swarmed the stations, using tactics no single military had ever developed. "Defense Platform 7 is down," reported Captain Cole from his fighter squadron. "Platform 12 destroyed," called out Lieutenant Hayes from another group. Within 10 minutes, the entire outer defense grid was offline. But Jake knew the real challenge was just beginning. "Admiral Sullivan to Morrison," came a voice over the emergency frequency. "Jake, is that really you?" Jake felt his heart jump. Kate Sullivan's voice was exactly as he remembered from 2 years ago. "Hello, Kate. Nice timing. We picked up your message transmission and came as fast as we could. I've got 40 ships with me. Glad to have you, but this isn't a rescue mission anymore." "I can see that. Jake, what the hell have you built out?" "Here?" Before Jake could answer, Commander Vextar's voice cut across all frequencies. "Human Morrison!" the Zephyrian leader snarled. "I should have killed you when I had the chance." "You should have done a lot of things differently," Jake replied. "But you didn't, and now it's too late. You think you can threaten the homeworld? With your collection of outcasts and criminals? I think I already am." Jake's fleet pressed deeper into the system, heading for the capital world where the Zephyrian Council was meeting. More defense ships moved to intercept them, but they were outnumbered and outmaneuvered. The battle was unlike anything in recorded history. Human fighters worked alongside alien warriors. Zephyrian defectors fought against their former comrades. Ships designed by one species were crewed by members of 5 others. "This is incredible," Admiral Sullivan said over the comm. "I've never seen coordination like this." 2 years of practice," Jake said. "Turns out different species are stronger together than apart." The fleet reached the capital world just as the Zephyrian Council was in session. Thousands of representatives from conquered worlds were gathered in the Great Assembly Hall, forced to listen to new laws and restrictions. "Elena, are you ready?" Jake asked. "Broadcasting on all frequencies," Elena replied from the command ship's communications station. Jake's face appeared on screens throughout the Zephyrian home system and across the galaxy, but he wasn't alone. Standing with him were representatives from 47 different species, all former prisoners, all united under one banner. "People of the galaxy," Jake began. "My name is Jake Morrison. 2 years ago, I was a prisoner of the Zephyrian Empire. They abandoned me on a prison world to die, along with thousands of others from dozens of different species. They thought they were getting rid of their problems. Instead, they created something they never expected, a family." The camera panned across his command staff. Humans and aliens working side by side, former enemies now united by common purpose. For too long, the galaxy has been divided by fear. Fear of those who look different, think different, or come from different worlds. The Zephyrian Empire has used that fear to conquer and control. But we've learned something important on our prison world. We've learned that what we share is stronger than what divides us, that families can be chosen, that even the most hopeless situation can be changed if people refuse to give up. On the planet below, chaos was erupting in the assembly hall. Representatives from conquered worlds were standing up, shouting questions, demanding answers. The Zephyrian guards couldn't control them all. You see us as criminals and outcasts, Jake continued. We see ourselves as proof that your empire is built on lies, proof that different species can work together, proof that your way is not the only way. Commander Vextar's image appeared on another screen. The Zephyrian leader looked older and more desperate than when Jake had last seen. You are still criminals, Vextar said. Pirates and terrorists who will be hunted down and destroyed? Hunt us down? Jake smiled. Vextar, we just flew our entire fleet to your homeworld and you couldn't stop us. How exactly are you going to hunt us? The Emperor will mobilize every ship in the Empire. The Emperor should be more worried about what's happening on his own worlds. As if on cue, reports started coming in from across Zephyrian space. On dozens of worlds, the oppressed populations were rising up. The broadcast had been the signal they were waiting for. You started a war you cannot win, Vexatar said. I didn't start this war, Jake replied. You did, when you decided that some species were worth more than others. When you decided that fear was stronger than hope. I just finished it. This is not over, human. You're right. It's just beginning, but not the way you think. Jake turned to address the galaxy again. To every world under Zephyrian control, you are not alone. To every species that has been conquered or enslaved, there is another way. To every person who has been told they are less than someone else, we prove that's a lie. Excellent work. Bring everyone home safely. Sir, the prisoners want to join us. They've heard the stories about what we're building here. Jake wasn't surprised. Word of the rebellion had spread throughout Zephyrian space. Every successful attack brought more volunteers and more hope to oppressed worlds. Bring them along. We'll find room for everyone. Yes, sir. Cole out. Elena walked into the command center carrying a data pad full of reports. As Jake's chief of staff, she managed the day-to-day operations of their growing rebellion. Status report, Jake said. Fleet strength is now at 230 ships, Elena said. We have fighters, transports, and even some heavy cruisers, captured from the Zephyrians. Personnel? 15,000 active fighters from 47 different species. Another 30,000 support staff and civilians. Jake shook his head in amazement. What had started with a few hundred prisoners was now larger than most planetary defense forces. What about supplies? More than we can use. The Zephyrians kept huge supply depots scattered around their territory. Every time we capture one, we're supplied for months. Crix approached from the tactical planning station. The former Zephyrian had become Jake's chief strategist and was responsible for many of their most successful attacks. Jake, we have a problem, Crix said quietly. What kind of problem? Intelligence reports suggest the Zephyrians are planning something big. They've been moving ships from all over their territory toward the home system. Jake studied the tactical display that Crix brought up on the main screen. Red dots showed Zephyrian fleet movements, and the pattern was clear. They were gathering their forces for a major operation. How many ships? Jake asked. At least 500. Maybe more. It's the largest fleet movement we've ever detected. Elena looked worried. Do you think they've found us? I don't know, Crix said. But if they have, that fleet could turn this planet into space dust. Jake was quiet for a moment, thinking. The rebellion had grown faster than anyone expected, but they still couldn't match the full might of the Zephyrian Empire in a direct fight. "How long until they're ready to move?" he asked. 2 weeks, maybe 3. Then we don't wait for them to come to us. "What do you mean?" Elena asked. Jake turned to face his command staff. "We've been fighting a guerrilla war for 2 years. Hit-and-run attacks, captured supplies, rescued prisoners, but we've always been reactive, always responding to what they do." "What are you suggesting?" Crix asked. "I'm suggesting we take the fight to them, all of it. Everything we've built, everyone we've trained, we hit the Zephyrian home system before they can organize their fleet." The command center got very quiet. Everyone stared at Jake like he had lost his mind. "Jake," Elena said carefully, "that's suicide. Even with all our ships, we can't match their home defenses." "Can't we?" "Crix, how many ships did you say they were moving to their gathering point?" 500. "And how many ships normally defend the home system?" Crix thought for a moment. "Maybe 200. They've been stripping defenses to build this attack fleet. So their home system is weaker than it's been in decades." "Yes, but still stronger than we are." Jake walked over to the star map that dominated one wall of the command center. The Zephyrian home system was marked in red at the center of their territory. "What if we're not trying to conquer them? What if we're just trying to prove a point?" "What kind of point?" Elena asked. "That nowhere is safe. That even their most protected worlds can be touched by the people they abandoned." Dr. Park entered. The command center carrying his usual tablet full of weapons reports. The former military scientist had become their chief weapons engineer. "Did I miss something important?" he asked. "Jake wants to attack the Zephyrian homeworld," Elena said. Dr. Park stopped walking. "I'm sorry, what?" "Not attack," Jake corrected. "Demonstrate. Show them that we can reach anywhere, strike anyone, disappear before they can respond." "And then what?" Dr. Park asked. "They'll hunt us down with everything they have." "They're already doing that. At least this way we choose the time and place of the final battle." Jake turned back to his staff. "Look, we all know this can't last forever. Eventually, they'll find this base or gather enough ships to overwhelm us. When that happens, we want to be remembered as more than just pirates and raiders." "What do you want to be remembered as?" Thais asked. She had just entered the command center and caught the end of the conversation. "As the people who proved that the Zephyrian Empire could be beaten, that different species could work together, that even their worst enemies could become a family." Crix studied the star map. "It would have to be a very specific kind of attack. Hit and run. Maximum psychological impact, minimum casualties on our side." "What are you thinking?" Jake asked. "The Zephyrian Council meets once a month in the capital city. Representatives from every conquered world attend. It's heavily guarded, but if we could interrupt that meeting, the entire galaxy would know about it in hours," Elena finished. "Exactly. Instead of hiding what we've built, we announce it to everyone." Dr. Park was running calculations on his tablet. "We'd need our entire fleet, every ship, every fighter, every transport, all or nothing." "And if we lose?" Elena asked. "Then we lose fighting instead of hiding," Jake said. "But I don't think we'll lose." "Why not?" Jake pointed to the screens showing their various operations. "Because for 2 years, the Zephyrians have been fighting an enemy they don't understand. They think in terms of species fighting species. They've never faced a truly integrated force. Plus," added Dr. Park, "we have advantages they don't know about. Signature masks, combined technologies, tactics from 47 different species. Most importantly, Thais added with her mind voice, we have something they lost long ago. What's that? Elena asked. The willingness to fight for something bigger than ourselves. Jake could see the idea taking hold in their minds. It was crazy and dangerous, but it was also exactly the kind of bold move that might work. I need to know if this is just my idea or if it's our idea, Jake said. This decision affects everyone on this base. Everyone in the fleet. I won't make it alone. How do we decide? Elena asked. The same way we've decided everything else. Together. Jake felt excitement building in his chest. What about ships? How many working vessels do we have? 8 small fighters and 2 transports, Elena said. Not much for fighting the Zephyrian Empire? It's enough to start with. Jake gathered his leadership team in the main planning room. Besides Elena, the group included Crix, Jorik, Dr. Park, Thys, Click, and Marcus. Representatives from each major species group were also there. Time for a decision, Jake said. We've been building and preparing for 3 months. We have weapons, ships, and trained people. The question is, what do we do next? We could try to leave the planet, suggested Dr. Park. Find a way to contact our home governments and tell them what happened. That might take years, Thys pointed out with her mind voice, and the Zephyrians would keep capturing more prisoners. We could stay here and keep building, Jorik said. Make this place into a real fortress. And then what? Jake asked. We defend ourselves until the Zephyrians decide we're too dangerous and destroy the whole planet? What are you thinking? Elena asked. Jake stood up and walked to the large map of local space that covered one wall. I'm thinking we go on the attack. The room got very quiet. Attack who? Dr. Park asked. Zephyrian supply convoys, small outposts, ships traveling alone. We hit them fast and disappear before they can respond. That's suicide, said one of the alien representatives. Is it? We have advantages they don't know about. We have signature masks that can hide our ships. We have fighters trained in tactics from dozens of different species. Most importantly, we have something they don't expect. What's that? Elena asked. Cooperation. The Zephyrians think in terms of species fighting species. They've never faced a truly mixed force before. Crix leaned forward. You want to start a guerrilla war. I want to start winning. Every time we hit them, we take their ships and equipment. Every victory makes us stronger. Eventually, other oppressed species will hear about us and join the fight. It's dangerous, Thys said. Everything's dangerous. The difference is whether we're fighting or just waiting to die. Jake turned to face the group. I'm not ordering anyone to do this. It has to be a choice each person makes for themselves. What would be our first target? Dr. Park asked. Jake pointed to a spot on the star map. Long-range sensors show a supply convoy that passes through the Kepler system every 2 weeks. 3 ships, lightly armed. They carry food and medical supplies to Zephyrian outposts. How do you know this? Elena asked. Crix still has access to some Zephyrian communication codes. We've been monitoring their traffic. A supply convoy, Marcus said thoughtfully. If we captured it intact, we'd have supplies for months. And 3 more ships, added Jorik. Plus the chance to test our equipment and tactics in real combat, Dr. Park said. Jake could see the idea taking hold in their minds. These weren't scared prisoners anymore. They were becoming soldiers again. The convoy will be in the Kepler system in 6 days, Jake said. That gives us time to prepare. We'll use 4 fighters and 1 transport. Fast attack, grab what we can, and get out. Who leads the mission? Elena asked. I do. This was my idea. Jake, you're needed here. You're the one holding all these different groups together. She's right, This agreed. If something happens to you, this whole alliance could fall apart. Jake wanted to argue, but he knew they were right. His real job wasn't fighting, it was leading. Fine. Dr. Park leads the attack. Marcus handles technical support. Crix advises on Zephyrian tactics. What about after the attack? Elena asked. Win or lose, the Zephyrians will know something is wrong. Then, we hit them again before they can figure out what's happening, and again after that. We keep hitting them until they're too busy defending themselves to dump more prisoners here. And if they send a war fleet to destroy us? Jake smiled grimly. Then we make sure it costs them everything they have. The vote was close, but the attack plan won. Over the next 6 days, the caves turned into a military base. Fighters were armed and tested. Assault teams trained together. Equipment was checked and double-checked. Jake found Elena in the medical center the night before the attack. She was preparing supplies for treating wounded fighters. Nervous? He asked. Terrified, she said honestly. This is really happening, isn't it? We're really going to fight back. Having second thoughts? Elena was quiet for a moment. Do you remember what you said the first night? About how the Zephyrians put all their problems in one place? Yeah. I've been thinking about that. They didn't just dump prisoners here. They dumped everyone who ever stood up to them. Everyone who refused to give up. Everyone who still believed in something better. And maybe that's exactly what the galaxy needs right now. Not just survivors, but people who remember what they're fighting for. Jake nodded. Win or lose tomorrow, we've already proven something important. What's that? That different species can work together. That the Zephyrian way isn't the only way. That even their worst enemies can become family if they're given the chance. Elena finished packing her medical supplies. Jake? Yeah? After we win tomorrow, after we prove this can work, what happens next? Jake looked around at the caves that had become home to thousands of former prisoners. He thought about all the different species working together, learning from each other, becoming something new. Next, we take this idea to the rest of the galaxy. We show every oppressed world that they don't have to face the Zephyrians alone. And if the Zephyrians come here in force, then we'll be ready for them, and we won't be the same scared prisoners they abandoned here. We'll be something they never expected to face? What's that? Jake smiled. A family that fights back. The next morning, 4 small fighters and 1 transport ship left Kethra Prime. They carried the hopes and dreams of thousands of former prisoners who had chosen to stop being victims. Jake watched them disappear into hyperspace and felt something he hadn't experienced since his capture. Hope. In 3 days, Dr. Park's team would return with 3 captured Zephyrian ships and enough supplies to last a year. The prisoners would celebrate their first victory and begin planning their next attack. But Jake already knew the most important battle had been won. The abandoned prisoners had become something the Zephyrian Empire had never faced before. A united force that refused to give up. The war for the galaxy was about to begin, and it would start with a single human who had turned a prison planet into a training ground for revolution. 2 years had passed since Jake's first night in the caves. Kethra Prime was no longer a prison world. It was the secret capital of the largest rebellion in galactic history. Jake stood in the command center, watching dozens of screens that showed ship movements across 3 star systems. Each screen represented another successful mission against the Zephyrian Empire. Incoming message from Strike Team 7, announced Lieutenant Susan Hayes from the communications station. She was one of 50 humans who had been rescued from other Zephyrian prison camps. "Put it through," Jake said. The face of Captain Ben Cole appeared on the main screen. Ben was leading an attack on a Zephyrian supply base in the Vega system. "Mission accomplished, sir," Ben reported. "We captured 12 transport ships and freed 300 prisoners. No casualties on our side." Jake looked around at the faces in the firelight. They took the best and brightest from dozens of species, people who were smart enough or brave enough to challenge them. Instead of killing us, they put us all in one place. So maybe we should stop trying to survive and start trying to win. The others stared at him. Nobody spoke for a long moment. "Win?" Dr. Park said finally. "Win what? We're prisoners on a death world with no weapons and no ships." "We have something better," Jake said. "We have each other. We have the knowledge of dozens of different species. We have people who understand Zephyrian technology and people who know their weaknesses." "You're talking about fighting back," Elena said. "That's impossible." "Is it? Look what you've built here in just 6 months. Underground cities, power systems, medical facilities. You did all that while just trying to survive. What could you do if you were trying to escape?" Crix leaned forward. "You are serious about this, human?" "Dead serious. The Zephyrians made a mistake when they didn't kill me. They made a bigger mistake when they put me here with all of you." "Even if we could somehow get off this planet," Theus said in her mind voice, "we have no weapons, no ships, no army." "Then we'll build them," Jake said. "We'll use Zephyrian technology against them. We'll turn their abandoned prisoners into their worst nightmare." "You're crazy," Dr. Park said, but there was excitement in his voice. "Maybe. But I'd rather die fighting than waste away in these caves." Elena studied Jake's face in the firelight. "You really think we could do it? Fight back against the entire Zephyrian Empire?" "I think we're the only ones who can," Jake said. "We know their technology, their tactics, their weaknesses. We have representatives from every species they've conquered. Most importantly, we have nothing left to lose." "What would you need?" Crix asked. "First, a complete count of everyone here. I want to know what skills we have, what knowledge we can use. Second, I want to map every inch of this planet. There might be more than old ruins here. Third, I want to know everything about crashed ships or abandoned equipment." "That could take months," Elena said. "Then we'd better get started." Jake stood up and looked around at the group. "I'm not asking anyone to follow me. I'm asking you to follow yourselves, to remember who you were before you became prisoners. You were leaders, scientists, warriors, engineers. You were the people your species trusted to explore the galaxy and face the unknown. The Zephyrians abandoned you here because they were afraid of what you might do if you worked together. Maybe it's time to show them they were right to be afraid." One by one, the prisoners around the fire stood up. Elena was first, then Dr. Park, then Crix and Thess and Jorik. Soon everyone in the cave was standing. "Where do we start?" Elena asked. Jake smiled for the first time since his capture. "We start by turning this prison into a training ground. We're going to build an army the galaxy has never seen before. And then we go home. All of us. And we make sure the Zephyrian Empire never abandons another prisoner again." That night, Jake fell asleep to the sound of dozens of species, working together, planning and building and preparing. For the first time since his capture, he wasn't just surviving, he was planning to win. 3 months later, Kethra Prime was a different world. Jake walked through the underground tunnels that now connected 5 major cave systems. The walls were lined with metal plates salvaged from crashed ships. Bright lights hung everywhere, powered by energy cells that Crix had taught them to build. The sounds of work echoed through the caves. In one area, Dr. Park was teaching weapons training to a mixed group of humans and aliens. In another, Thais was using her mind powers to help coordinate construction teams. Everywhere Jake looked, former prisoners were building something new. "Jake, you need to see this," Elena called from across the main cavern. She was standing next to a large table, covered with maps and technical drawings. Over the past months, Elena had become Jake's second in command. She was good at organizing people and solving problems. "What did you find?" Jake asked. Marcus Webb finished his survey of the northern continent. "Look at this." Marcus was a young, human engineer who had been captured during a mining operation. He was smart with machines and had a good eye for finding useful things. "We found 3 more crash sites," Marcus said, pointing to marks on the map. "One of them is huge. Looks like a Zephyrian heavy cruiser that went down maybe 10 years ago. Any survivors?" Jake asked. "No, but the ship is mostly intact. Crix thinks we could salvage enough parts to build 2 or 3 working fighters." Jake studied the map. "How long to get there?" 4 days on foot. The terrain is rough, but we've got teams that can handle it. Do it. Take 20 people and bring back everything useful. "Already planned for it," Marcus grinned. "We leave tomorrow." Jake nodded and moved to another table where Jorik was working with a small alien that looked like a walking insect. The creature's name was Click, and it was incredibly smart with electronics. "Status report on communications?" Jake asked. "Good news and bad news," Jorik said in his deep voice. "Click managed to repair one of the long-range communicators we found." "That's the good news. What's the bad?" "The Zephyrians are jamming all frequencies. We can't reach anyone outside this system." Jake had expected that. The Zephyrians wouldn't want their prisoners calling for help. "What about local communications?" "Those work fine," Click said in its buzzing voice. "We can talk to teams anywhere on the planet." That's a start. Jake moved through the caves, checking on different projects. In the workshops, teams were building weapons from salvaged materials. They had projectile guns, energy weapons, and even some explosives. Nothing fancy, but they would work. In the training areas, former soldiers from different species were teaching each other combat techniques. Humans learned stealth from the shadow-walking Nyx people. The strong Ursani learned human tactics for fighting larger enemies. The telepathic species taught others how to resist mental attacks. The most impressive area was the Technology Center. Crix worked there with engineers from 6 different species. They were combining knowledge to create new devices that no single species had ever built. "Show him the new project," Elena said to Crix. The former Zephyrian led Jake to a corner where a strange device sat on a workbench. It was about the size of a briefcase and covered in blinking lights. "We call it a signature mask," Crix explained. "It can make our ships look like something else on enemy sensors." "How does it work?" Thais helped us understand how different species perceive reality. Click figured out how to fool electronic sensors. Dr. Park added some human military ideas about deception. Crix touched a control, and the device hummed to life. On a nearby screen, Jake could see what enemy sensors would detect. Instead of showing the device, the screen showed empty space. "Impressive. How many can you build?" "With the parts we have now, maybe 12. But if Marcus brings back materials from that crashed ship, we could build 50 or more." The first night on Kethra Prime almost killed Jake. The wind was strong enough to knock him down, and the temperature dropped so fast that his breath turned to ice. He found shelter in a broken building made of strange purple stone. The ruins were old, maybe thousands of years. Someone had lived here once, but they were long gone now. Jake wrapped himself in his thin blanket and tried to sleep while the storm raged outside. When morning came, Jake was still alive. That was something. He ate a small piece of dried food from his pack and drank a little water. The supply would last maybe 3 days if he was careful. After that, he would have to find his own food and water or die. The planet was ugly during the day. The sky was always gray, and strange purple plants grew everywhere. Some of them had thorns as long as his fingers. Others leaked a green liquid that smelled like poison. Jake walked carefully through the ruins, looking for anything useful. Most buildings were empty and broken, but in one he found metal pipes that could be weapons. In another, he found some kind of cloth that was stronger than it looked. On his second day, Jake found water. A small stream ran behind the ruins, coming from underground. The water was clear and cold, and it tasted good. Jake filled his empty bottles and felt a little hope. Food was harder to find. The purple plants were probably poisonous. Jake had seen no animals yet. He was getting hungry when he found something strange in one of the larger buildings, scratch marks on the walls. Recent ones. Something lived here. Something with claws. Jake picked up a metal pipe and walked carefully through the building. The scratches led to a hole in the floor that went down into darkness. Jake could hear something moving down there. He was about to leave when he heard a voice. "Please," it said in broken human language. "Help." Jake stopped. Someone was alive down there, and they spoke his language. "Hello?" he called into the hole. "Human?" the voice asked. "You are human?" "Yes. Are you hurt?" "Trapped." Rock fell. "Can't move." Jake looked around and found some old rope. He tied it to a metal beam and lowered himself into the hole. It was dark and cold down there, but he could see a little by the light from above. A woman was trapped under a large rock. She had long dark hair and wore torn clothes that looked like a science uniform. She was definitely human. "How long have you been down here?" Jake asked as he tried to move the rock. 2 days? Maybe 3. Hard to tell in the dark. "What's your name?" "Elena Rodriguez. I'm a doctor." Well, I was a doctor. Jake pushed hard against the rock. It was heavy, but he was able to move it enough for Elena to pull her leg free. She cried out in pain, but managed to crawl away from the rock. "Can you walk?" Jake asked. "I think so. Nothing's broken." Jake helped her climb out of the hole. In the daylight, he could see she was about 30 years old with kind eyes and a smart face. Her leg was hurt, but not too badly. "Thank you," she said. "I thought I was going to die down there." "How did you get here?" Jake asked. "To this planet, I mean." Elena's face got sad. "The Zephyrians captured my research ship 6 months ago. I was studying alien plants for possible medical uses. When I wouldn't tell them about human biology, they sent me here. 6 months? How have you survived so long? There are others. Other prisoners from different species. We help each other when we can." Jake felt his heart speed up. "Others? How many?" "Hundreds. Maybe thousands. The Zephyrians have been dumping prisoners here for years." Elena led Jake through the ruins to a hidden entrance behind some fallen rocks. They climbed down through narrow passages until they reached a large underground cave. Jake couldn't believe what he saw. The cave was huge, with many tunnels leading off in different directions. Lights hung from the ceiling, powered by some kind of energy cell. Gardens of strange plants grew in the corners. Most amazing of all, there were people everywhere, not just humans. Dozens of different alien species were living together in the cave. Some looked like giant insects, others were covered in fur or scales. A few looked almost human, but with extra arms or different colored skin. "Welcome to the underground," Elena said. "Home of the forgotten and abandoned." A large creature with blue fur walked over to them. It stood on two legs like a human, but had 4 arms and a face like a friendly bear. "Elena, you are safe," it said in a deep voice. "We were worried when you didn't return." "This is Jorik," Elena told Jake. "He's from the Ursani people. Jorik, this is Jake. He's the human who saved me." Jorik looked at Jake with big yellow eyes. "Another human. Good. We can use more humans here." "Why?" Jake asked. "Humans are good at solving problems," said a new voice. Jake turned to see a tall, thin alien with gray skin and large black eyes. It looked almost like the Zephyrians, but smaller and friendlier. "I am Crix," it said. "I used to be a Zephyrian engineer before they cast me out for asking too many questions." "You're Zephyrian?" Jake asked. "Former Zephyrian. Now I'm just another prisoner like you." Elena led Jake deeper into the cave system. She showed him sleeping areas, workshops, and even a small medical center where she treated the sick and injured. "How do you have all this?" Jake asked. "The lights, the tools, the medical supplies?" "Scavenged from crashed ships and old ruins," Elena explained. "Some prisoners arrive with useful skills. Others bring knowledge about their home worlds. We share everything." "It's impressive, but why haven't you tried to escape?" Elena stopped walking and looked at him. "Escape to where? We have no ships. The Zephyrians destroyed our communicators. Even if we could get off this planet, where would we go? Most of our species think we're dead." Jake met many prisoners that day. There was Thais, who could speak with her mind instead of words. Her people had been enslaved by the Zephyrians for trying to help other species. There was Dr. Kim Park, a human weapons expert who had been captured during a battle. There was Zara, whose people could see in the dark and had been imprisoned for refusing to spy on their neighbors. Each prisoner had a story of standing up to the Zephyrian Empire and paying the price. That night, Jake sat with Elena and some of the other humans around a small fire. There were 8 humans total, all captured at different times and in different places. "The Zephyrians think they're smart," said Dr. Park. "They put all their problems on one planet and forget about us." "Maybe that's their mistake," Jake said quietly. "What do you mean?" Elena asked. Jake Morrison checked the radar screen one more time. The small green dots showed his ship and 2 others moving through empty space. They were far from Earth, exploring a new star system that might have planets humans could live on. "Everything looks quiet out here," said Lieutenant Amy Carter from her seat at the weapons station. She was young but smart, and Jake trusted her judgment. "Too quiet," muttered Sergeant Rick Murphy from the back of the bridge. The big man was cleaning his rifle for the 3rd time that day. "I don't like it when space is this empty." Jake smiled a little. Rick always expected trouble. That was why Jake kept him around. In 10 years of service, Rick's paranoia had saved their lives more than once. The UES Horizon was not a big ship. It carried only 12 people and was built for scouting, not fighting. Jake's job was to find new worlds and report back to Earth Command. It was usually boring work, but someone had to do it. "Sir," called out Navigator Pete Davis from his station, "I'm picking up something strange on long-range sensors." Jake moved over to Pete's screen. The young man pointed at several large shapes, moving toward them from behind a nearby moon. "How many ships?" Jake asked. "At least 20, sir. Maybe more. They're big ones, too." Jake felt his stomach drop. 20 large ships meant serious trouble. The Horizon could handle maybe 2 enemy ships if they were lucky. 20 was impossible. "All stop," Jake ordered. "Amy, power up weapons, but keep them hidden. Rick, get everyone ready for battle stations." The alien ships came around the moon like angry wasps. They were long and sharp, painted in dark purple with gold trim. Jake had seen pictures of these ships before in intelligence reports. They belonged to the Zephyrian Empire. "Oh no," whispered Amy. "Those are Zephyrian warships." The Zephyrians were bad news. They conquered other worlds and made slaves of anyone who survived. They thought humans were weak and stupid. The two species had been enemies for 5 years now. "Sir, they're sending a message," Pete said. "Put it on screen." A tall alien appeared on the main viewer. It had gray skin, 4 arms, and eyes like a snake. When it spoke, its voice was cold and mean. "Human ship, you are in Zephyrian space. Surrender now, or be destroyed." Jake thought fast. He could try to run, but the alien ships were faster. He could try to fight, but they would lose quickly. His only choice was to buy time and hope his crew could escape. "This is Commander Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Horizon," he said. "We were just exploring. We didn't know this was your space." The alien laughed. It was not a nice sound. "Ignorance is not an excuse, human. Prepare to be boarded." The alien ships surrounded the horizon like hunters around trapped prey. Jake watched them get closer and knew they were out of options. "Amy, send out the emergency signal to Earth Command. Tell them what happened here." "Already done, sir." "Good. Rick, get the crew to the escape pods. Make sure everyone gets out." "What about you, sir?" Rick asked. "Someone needs to stay and make sure the pods launch safely. The Zephyrians might try to stop them." Rick's face got hard. "I'm staying with you, sir." "No, you're not. That's an order, Sergeant. Get our people home." Jake could see Rick wanted to argue, but orders were orders. The big man saluted and ran to help the others. The first Zephyrian ship attached itself to the Horizon's side. Jake heard the cutting tools starting to work on his hull. Soon they would be inside. "Sir, escape." "Pods are ready," Amy said. "Launch them now. All of them." "But, sir, you need—" "Launch them now, Lieutenant. That's an order." Amy's hands shook as she pressed the buttons. One by one, the escape pods shot away from the ship. Jake watched them on his screen, counting each. 1. All 11 crew members were away safely. The Zephyrians broke through the hull just as the last pod disappeared into space. Jake heard their heavy boots on his ship's metal floors. He sat in his captain's chair and waited. 6 aliens came onto the bridge. They were all tall and strong, wearing dark armor. Their leader had more gold decorations than the others. "I am Commander Vextar of the Imperial Fleet," the leader said. "You are now my prisoner. I'm Jake Morrison, and this is my ship." Vextar looked around the empty bridge. "Where is your crew, human?" "Gone. Safe." "You stayed behind alone?" "Someone had to." Vextar seemed confused by this. "Why would you sacrifice yourself for others?" Jake didn't answer. Humans did things like that, but aliens like Vexitar would never understand. No matter, Vexitar said. You will tell us about human military secrets, about your weapons and ships, about where your colonies are hidden. I won't tell you anything, Vexitar smiled, showing sharp teeth. We shall see. They put heavy chains on Jake's arms and legs. The metal was cold and hurt his wrists. 2 guards carried him to their ship while the others planted bombs on the horizon. Jake watched through a small window as his ship exploded. The bright flash lit up space for a few seconds. Then there was nothing left but floating pieces of metal. The Zephyrian ship was huge inside. The walls were covered with pictures of battles and conquered worlds. Everything was designed to make prisoners feel small and afraid. They threw Jake into a dark cell that smelled like fear and old blood. The floor was cold metal, and there was no bed or chair. A small hole in one corner was the bathroom. A tiny slot in the door was for food. For days, they left him alone in the dark. Jake tried to exercise and keep his mind sharp. He thought about his crew and hoped they had made it home safely. He thought about Earth and wondered if he would ever see it again. When Vexitar finally came to see him, Jake was ready. Have you thought about my offer, human? What offer? You never made one. Tell me about human defenses, and I will make your death quick. Still not interested. Vexitar's 4 hands made fists. You humans are all the same, stubborn and stupid. Do you know what happens to prisoners who don't cooperate? I'm sure you'll tell me. We send them to Kethra Prime. It's a world where we put criminals and rebels. Nothing lives there except pain and death. Prisoners usually last about a week. Jake shrugged. Sounds like a vacation. Vexitar hit him across the face. Jake tasted blood but didn't cry out. You will break, human. They all do eventually. But Jake didn't break. For 3 weeks, they tried everything. They hurt him, threatened him, and played mind games. They showed him pictures of destroyed human colonies and said his friends were dead. Jake knew they were lying and said nothing. Finally, Vexitar came to his cell one last time. You are useless to me, human. Tomorrow you go to Kethra Prime. You will die slowly on that terrible world, and no one will remember your name. Fine, by me, Jake said. You don't understand. Kethra Prime is where hope goes to die. Nothing survives there. Nothing. Then I guess I'll be the first. Vexitar stared at him for a long moment, then walked away. Jake heard his footsteps echoing down the hall. The next morning, they put Jake in a small transport ship with just enough food and water for a few days. The pilot was a young Zephyrian who looked nervous. Why are you doing this? Jake asked him. Orders, the pilot said quietly. Commander Vexitar says you're too dangerous to keep alive, but too honorable to execute. This way, he doesn't have to. Kill you himself. Honorable? He called me stubborn and stupid. Maybe you're both. They flew for 2 days through hyperspace. When they came out, Jake saw a brown and gray planet covered in storms. It looked angry and mean, like it wanted to kill anything that came close. Welcome to Kethra Prime, the pilot said. Try not to die too quickly. They landed near some old ruins that might provide shelter. The pilot gave Jake a small pack with basic supplies and a broken communicator that would never work. Good luck, human. You'll need it. The transport ship flew away, leaving Jake alone on the most dangerous world in the galaxy. The wind was howling, and storm clouds were gathering overhead. Jake picked up his pack and started walking toward the ruins. He had no idea that this terrible place would change everything. He had no idea that other prisoners were hiding in the caves, waiting for someone like him. He had no idea that in 2 years he would return to destroy everything the Zephyrian Empire had built. All Jake knew was that he was alive, and that was enough for now.